leaving the Anti Furry Coalition. Yeah, that probably wasn't the sentence most people expected to hear from me, considering my recent uploads. For the past 4 years, I've been a part of AFC, arguing, debating, making content, and being pretty deeply involved in that community. But today I'm stepping away from it. And the story of how that happened is a lot more complicated than you might think. Before we continue, we need to clarify some terminology. We have 5 groups when it comes to furry versus anti-furry debate. Group 1 would be furries. By this group, I mean the furry fandom, a group of people who like anthropomorphic animals. The furry fandom began to take shape in the 1980s, growing out of science fiction and comic book conventions where fans of anthropomorphic characters started to gather. Over the decades, it has evolved into a diverse community with members from all over the world engaging in various forms of expression. Commonly, furries have fursonas, an imitation of themselves or an original character in anthropomorphic style. The absence of a fursona doesn't necessarily mean that a person isn't a furry. Furry ethnicity is mostly white people. However, in 2020, it was depicted that there is a rising amount of Asian folk getting into this culture. Interestingly, 75% of furries are originated from the United States. With that said, I can calmly announce that this activity is a white people bullshit. Okay, it was a joke. Furries have a mixed reputation. Amongst the folk that enjoy arts and self-representation, they have a rather positive feedback. However, amongst the fandoms and overall online users, furries have rather loud and negative reputation due to their questionable influence on pop culture, arts, and literature. We'll discuss this later. Furries are commonly creative and great artists. There are even instances when furries hosted charities to help fundraise to animal shelters. But mainly they focus on art, film, and music creation, and rarely games like Lethal Company. Judging by personal experience, we can divide furries into 2 subgroups. Number 1, the sane ones. These behave according to normal standards. For example, they don't run around on all fours, and they don't try to act like an animal. They also avoid socially unacceptable fetishes, like inflation fetish. A sane furry is supposed to be understanding and rational, not overly sensitive. By that I mean they won't get offended by a random explanation video because it didn't praise furries enough. And number 2 is the deranged ones, the worst case scenario of a furry. That might include the Reddit user, gooner, or simply a very sensitive person with anger issues. The most common type is the my way or no way mentality. If you are against furries or the furry fandom, and by that I mean simply disliking the fandom for unknown reasons, you are usually labeled as someone who would even though you have nothing to do with that. Group 2, anti-furries. Anti-furries, as the name suggests, oppose the furry fandom. A group of anti-furries is referred to as the Anti Furry Coalition, AFC for short, since the term fandom doesn't fit it. They oppose furries mainly because of the fandom's notorious reputation. The exact number of anti-furries is unknown, but the circle is small. Everyone generally knows everyone within the group. Anti-furries have their own flag, which unites the group together. The selection of these specific colors is unknown. However, the Greek letter phi, non-capital, in the center of the emblem symbolizes the f sound as in furries. It also creates a paw symbol, which is a common thing on a furry flag. This is all crossed out to underline that AFC doesn't support this group and goes against it. There are many other flags or remixes of the original one, however, the others are non-official and often fictional. Due to the coloration of the flag, many furries compare this as to. That is a common misconception, since the group has absolutely nothing to do with it. Anti-furries can be divided into 3 subgroups: Team Red, Team Blue, and the neutrals. Please note that these divisions are non-official. Team Red, the extremists. They're very open about the negativity towards furries. Offensive memes usually come from here. A YouTuber by the name CEO of Trolling is considered the main representative of this group, although there are many others, and this is non-official. Team Red aims to break apart the furry fandom entirely. They do raids, trolling, and in some cases cyberstalking. They enjoy negative reactions from furries because it signals that their message was delivered. Team Blue, the rational ones. These members are chill, listen, and prefer debates or rational solutions rather than extreme measures like raids. Team Blue sometimes, but not always, allows furries, mostly burn furs, on their servers, only if they have no ill intentions. Their servers often act as therapy spaces for members, where they share life stories, play games, and send memes. Neutrals. They barely participate and mostly observe. They're chill like Team Blue but barely do anything, hardly ever participating in the chats or battles or debates. All anti-furries follow an unwritten codex of rules. Number 1, no NSFW content, like exceptions for evidence or in-game bloodshed. Despite this rule, Team Red folk often share NSFW jokes within the circle for the sake of trolling. Number 2, newcomers must be approved by existing members. This might involve completing documents, creating videos, raids Team Red, or debates Team Blue, or trying to join through server. The other way may be starting a YouTube channel and focusing on anti-furry content. Number 3, do not consume furry gooner content unless it's for critique or research. Any other reason is considered heresy. Group 3, burn furs. Burn furs are furries who don't want to be associated with the fandom but still might have personas and maintain interest in anthropomorphic animals. They may align with Team Blue as they're sometimes allowed to stay in the servers, but mostly they're disliked by both furries and anti-furries. Group 4, furry supporters. People who support the furry fandom, whether they're furries themselves or just defend for the fandom online. Group 5 would be furry haters. These people hate furries without a proper reason or organization. They are separate from AFC, but often get mistaken for anti-furries. Their attacks are chaotic, unorganized, and solitary. Now that you know the groups, we are getting to the most unserious part of my video. My story of joining the AFC. I started my YouTube channel back on April 1st in 2022 because my entire YouTube channel is a joke. Hey! However, I actually started posting in mid-summer of 2022 by making my first ever animation. Surprisingly, even with just 3 subscribers, I got 2 negative comments from furries. Unfortunately, I didn't save the screenshots. This made me suspect that furries weren't as nice and fuzzy as they seemed at the first glance. I ignored it and kept creating for about a year. Back then, I was interested in Pokemon franchise a lot, especially Pokemon Unite, the mobile game. I wanted to draw my favorite character, so I searched for references online. Instead, I came across a lot of NSFW furry content, which honestly shook me. That led me to start researching the fandom in early 2022. I wanted to understand whether it was actually a problem across different communities I was part of. That's when I discovered the Anti Furry Coalition. Since I had a lot of free time back then and genuine curiosity about this drama, I decided to join Anti-Furry team to get a better perspective. I had 2 goals in mind: explore both sides and how they interact, and expand and grow my already created YouTube channel. At first, I was exposed to Team Red content, mostly memes and aggressive posts. I quickly realized that the main goal was spreading awareness about negative behavior within the furry fandom. I also noticed something else. Those videos perform really well, getting thousands of views. So I started making my own content, but differently. I didn't like the idea of plain hatred that they portrayed in their videos. This is a very Team Red thing to do. Their videos were also very repetitive. There were no new jokes added besides a simple depiction of graphic violence and sometimes reactions to cringy furry videos. I made my memes picture-styled, not short video compilations. I came up with new original witted jokes. My first upload on March 26 of 2023 reached around 1.9k views in the first week, which was a huge jump for my channel. I ended up making about 11 parts and they all performed well. Looking back, I don't really like my content anymore, nor did I like it before. However, it helped my channel grow and has given me basic experience in content creation. I will keep the playlist with all of the related videos as a legacy of my past. My potential didn't go unnoticed. Under a month, I was officially recognized by others in the community. I vaguely remember a guy called Emperor Leland that used to admire my work a lot. He was one of the folks that accepted me into AFC. Later same year, 2023, I joined Discord and got access to some of the anti-furry servers, like Hopping Button's Garage, aka simply Garage, and some bunch of other servers which weren't relevant. Garage used to be the top 1 server for Team Blue members back at its prime. Anyways, that server was the place where I met a guy who we will call Crosshair. Cross is a very decent example of Team Blue, calm, rational, strict but understanding. But boy was he nerdy about the rules, but I guess that's his job as an admin. He joined my server for some checkups because some folks thought I was an undercover furry, but that rumor was soon debunked. Cross soon became my server admin and we became pals. Thanks to him, I was able to stay at the garage and get to know the Team Blue way better. I have joined the garage at its prime years. It was full of life, people often hang out in the calls or text chats. Despite the occasional drama with some of the members and anti-furry wars that occur now and then between two teams, the server was pretty chill. The common belief of furries that anti-furries only hate them all day is a lie. We have spent majority of the time bonding, sharing memes, telling various stories, and showing off our artwork. Personally, I have met some jerks there that made me uncomfortable, but overall I've met plenty of good folk and had a great time. To be honest, I wasn't very active on the server. After all, I had to simply observe and hardly ever needed to participate. From March of 2023 to April 2024 and later in late 2025-2026, I was all busy in furry researching. I had to understand what the majority of folk there were into and what was that culture all about. You know what they say, gotta be a professional hater, must show the dedication. I even made a list of things many furries enjoy. Note, furry YouTubers are not on the list. This is a lot of text, so how about I make a total tier list of the interests, You can skip that part if you want. So I divided them in a few tiers. The absolute cinema, the highest, decent, watchable, meh, garbage, delete this, the lowest, and I don't know, I haven't seen the separate part because I genuinely don't know what is this about. So let's get started. Adventure Time, absolute cinema, great series. Agretsuko, well, the visuals are nice, but not my style. The story, personal opinion, is kinda boring. Animal Crossing game, well, decent, it's great, and relaxing. Balto, the Disney movie, absolute cinema, the story is great, and Disney old 2D animations are always great. Beastars anime show, well, it's honestly garbage, Blu-ray. I don't know, I haven't seen this. Black Sad, the game and the comics, it's decent. The visuals are well made and the story is interesting. However, the character design is so unhinged to me and I feel uncomfortable just by looking at it. Brand new animal anime series. Honestly, meh. Just meh. Change game. Delete this. Creatures of Sonaria game. Watchable. I played this game for a while and I might make a video on it depicting my experience, but overall it is well made. Critter Bay game. It's garbage, boring, and confusing. Cult of the Lamb. Decent, the visuals are good, the music is peak, and the lore is well written. Deltarune game. Well, it's watchable. Dragon Adventures game. Watchable tier. The dragon's designs are quite interesting. Fantastic Mr. Fox movie. Absolute cinema. One of my favorite movies. Would recommend for watching, but Isle of Dogs was still better, in my opinion. Five Nights at Freddy's game, plus the fan games. Absolute masterpiece. This is my childhood right there. It brings me a lot of nostalgia. Genshin Impact. More like gay shit in fat. Okay, that was an overused joke. Guardians of Gahoo movie. Absolute cinema. I haven't read the book, there is a book, but I have seen the movie and it is quite interesting to watch. Has-Been Hotel series. Delete this. Helluva Boss series. Also delete this. Hollow Knight plus Silksong, the game series. Absolute cinema, definitely one of the best indie games out there. Honkai Star Rail game. Garbage. It's a pay-to-win garbage. House Pets, the comics. It's garbage. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Absolute cinema, would recommend for reading. I love the story and the character development because it's about a serial killer, and I love how this insanity is depicted. It's great. Kung Fu Panda movies. I mean, of course it's gonna be absolute cinema. The Kevin and Kel comics. I don't know, haven't read them. Like a Daisy series. Watchable. It has a lot of effort put into it, and I always had respect for indie game devs and animations. Night in the Woods game. It's decent. The visual art style is quite interesting. Ori and the Blind Forest. Absolute cinema. Ozzy and Millie comics. I don't know, haven't seen this. Overwatch game. Garbage. A pay-to-win garbage. Palworld game. It's garbage because I don't like it and it's personal. Pokemon. Game series, anime, and comics. Well, Of course it's gonna be Absolute Cinema. Pressure Game. Delete this. Rain World Game. Watchable. It's surely unique in its own way, and the kitties are cute. Red Wall series, plus the book, which possibly was comics, I don't know. And overall, I don't know, I haven't seen or read the books or the movie. It's a mystery to me. Regular show series. Well, that is an Absolute Cinema. Roblox. I mean, is there really anything to add about this? Robin Hood Disney movie, the Anthro version. Well, watchable tier, although I prefer the non-Anthro design. Skyrim game. Well, it's Skyrim, guys, Absolute Cinema. Sly Cooper. Well, I haven't played the game, nor I've seen what it's about, so I don't know tier. Sonic the Hedgehog game series. Absolute Cinema peak childhood. Sing, the movies. Honestly, man, Spyro the Dragon game. Honestly, not in my taste, but overall, pretty good. The old PlayStation graphics bring some nostalgia, so meh tier. Star Fox game series. Honestly, not my genre. I don't like the visuals. It's looking kind of old, but maybe that's a good thing. Overall, meh tier. Tail Chaser song. Well, that's actually a book. Quite nice. Won't do any spoilers here. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Absolute Cinema peak childhood. The Site. It's a book. Again, readable, won't do you any spoilers. Undertale. Absolute Cinema. Warrior Cats book series. Honestly, maybe it's good for someone. I'm gonna just put it in watchable. It's gonna be readable, but also watchable. Maybe someone likes them, I don't know. Watership Down. Absolute Cinema, although the film has traumatized an entire generation. Wings of Fire book series. It's watchable. I have read a few. They are less confusing than Warrior Cats. And I like dragons. It's good enough. Wolfwalkers movie. Absolute Cinema. Definitely one of my favorite movies. Would recommend World of Warcraft game. It's decent. So, decent tier. Zenless Zone Zero. Garbage, a pay-to-win garbage 3.0 plus epilepsy add-on. Zootopia movie. Guys, you gotta hear me out, okay? The first movie is alright because it completes the detective part well. I like detective genre. And characters, Judy and Nick have to go through logical process of thinking before uncovering the next clue. And the character development is present. So all of that logical connection from the clues to who is the villain is done well. The villain is well written and the story is dynamic. You can resonate with the characters. You actually get interested in the story. It's good in its way, but I don't like character design. And then we have Zootopia 2, which is I mean, the only good thing about this movie, Shakira songs, because I like Shakira. That's it. Moving on, I will have to divide my personal contact with furries into two groups. One where they knew I was an anti-furry, and the other one when they didn't. And the difference was noticeable. When they didn't know that I was an anti-furry, interactions were mostly normal with no types of aggressive behavior or any offenses. But when they knew, reactions were often very aggressive, often resulted in them using hate speech towards me, often misogyny or racism, or most commonly, ageism. And regardless of my levels of politeness initially towards them, so, majority of my cases when my identity was known resulted in massive outlash of my opponent. I did meet a few respectful people, but they were rare in my experience. Back to 2023, late spring or beginning of summer, the time when I created a community of my own. My small community was my secondary main contact with the members of AFC. Majority belonged to Team Blue. Sometimes Team Red folk would show up, but they often left to the other servers out of boredom. My server was a community server. I allowed almost everyone to join, so furries were not prohibited. I dearly regretted that decision later because it became a major safety problem. In April 2024, I got bored of making the same anti-furry memes compilations. I needed growth and experiments. Previously, I have tried branching out and making new content like gaming or animations, which are still up on the channel. That's why I decided to make anti-furry versus furry explanatory video for the first time ever. That's when I noticed a pattern. Positive statements about furries were, ignored. Like, yeah, that's common thing. No one really cared. But when criticism was ever mentioned, that triggered strong negative reactions. This led to what anti-furries often call furry bias, a tendency to reject criticism entirely. This bias doesn't stop there. Double standards and misinformation belong in the list too. For example, many furries believe that anti-furries are not simply because the anti-furry flag shares the color palette with the infamous one. However, this is wrong. How does one connect disliking the fandom and committing war crimes over ethnicity hatred? The entire time I've been in AFC, I've seen only one anti-furry and even then, it was later confirmed to be a furry hater, not an anti-furry. May of 2024 might have been a great time. This was the year when me and DJ collaborated for the first time ever. That's my best buddy now. Remember CEO of Trolling? That guy suggested to DJ to make a collab with me, since we both were promising anti-furries at the time. And DJ was, and still more popular than me. I'm not jealous, I swear. Ever since we became like Jesse and James from Team Rocket, and 2024 was the same year I was waved with loads and loads of furry propaganda. In simple words, misinformation about Anti Furry Coalition. There were even subreddits dedicated to just defaming Anti Furry Coalition, and they were led by furries. I believe this is due to furry haters being oftenly mistaken for us, or Team Red shenanigans, with raids and offensive furry memes. Team Blue was hardly ever seen by furries, because we don't host raids or interact with furries often anyway, and our work remained unnoticed. For the rest of 2024 and early 2025, I was busy working on a secret group creating that expose video on CEO of Trolling, which came out on January 7th, 2025. I created a whole document depicting his and other Team Red activities. And the work on it started since September 2024. I worked alongside many spies who provided the information in the secret server. I will not credit them since they wished their identities remained hidden. As for right now, for unknown reason, the document is no longer available to the public. But the video still remains, so guess that counts. CEO was a bad person in the eyes of many amongst Team Blue, and a hero in the eyes of Team Red. To sum up, many folk from Team Blue did not like his activities. After all, CEO was one of the leaders of Team Red, and targeting him became someone's main priority. I joined because I needed details for my own research. But you know that. My personal experience with Team Red wasn't that much of pleasant. Team Red was full of racist, very aggressive trolls and toxicity. However, none of them ever said ill of others because of their gender. I've seen many furries hating on me for simply being a woman. That's called sexism, or for that matter, misogyny. And I also have to point out that not a single anti-furry out there hated me for my age. The furries, however, often, very often pointed on me for still being a minor. 17 years old, by the way. When they were younger than me, in most cases. I honestly expected a fandom full of adults, because that's what the demographics showed on the furry websites, but I guess I was wrong. Anyways, back to Team Red. Overall, CEO was the most rational and smart out of all of them. Like his audience, he had plenty of patience to answer all of my questions during the interview, and he was always polite and, as far as I know, never said an ill word before nor after the video got posted. I hold no grudge against that man, and my expose video was simply a message from Team Blue folk, whom I worked with, and also part of my big experiment on the YouTube channel with different content. After I posted the video, there was war. A lot of drama between the two teams. His audience didn't take it lightly, and I had many death threats and dox attempts, but I don't really care. I believe it was the same year when the Halo Wars started. For context, they are called Halo Wars because of the main figure, Halo Guy 7. He is responsible for holding the anti-furry dox, that has basic information about anti-furries and their history, and the preservation of these anti-furry documents, I think. He's also a YouTuber and the previous co-owner of The Garage, the server of Team Blue. After some drama, which involved crosshair, some rule violations, and whatever else, Hello Guy was no longer the co-owner of the server. Oh, and many people left The Garage due to this war. So nowadays, Garage is kind of like a cemetery. I'm telling you all of this because during that time, I barely visited Garage and basically slept through this World War II of anti-furries. Not cool. Well, as for the rest of 2025, I found out that CEO of Trolling might soon retire as an anti-furry. However, that may not be true. Crosshair has retired as an anti-furry since summer of 2025. Many Team Blue members have left, and 2025 became the end of my prime years as an anti-furry. That year is when I started to question if I truly belonged there anymore. And the Halo Wars also had affected this deeply because, like I said before, Garage was an important gathering spot for the Team Blue, and since many members left, well, it was gone. Then I saw that Team Blue had a drastic decline in members and newcomers. The rational way of debating with furries became less popular amongst all of the anti-furries, and more aggressive way of approach has become more common to use, since it was more effective and less time-consuming. I lost people with whom I once bonded, and Garage changed since the last time I remember it being cozy. I lost my purpose of being here, and it was time to end my long-lasting experience. Can't forget the furry haters, they were multiplying. Wherever I went online for some spying on furry comment sections, well, it's just mean offenses, and it's sad. All the way up until now, I barely did anything for the AFC. I sometimes revisited Garage, but never stayed long. Things have changed over the years. I didn't have much free time, so I was mostly occupied with my real-life problems. And right now, first half of 2026, I'm creating this video to share my story. These 4 years were surely an interesting and unforgettable experience for me. I feel like Bilbo Baggins at the end of his journey. I learned a lot, not just about communities, but about people in general. I became more resistant to criticism and more aware of how online groups function. It is now time to add my personal opinion on furries and anti-furries in general to sum up the video. I don't hate furries. To hate, in my opinion, is a deep desire to destroy or kill the object of hate. I hate Russians for obvious reasons, and I have different approach to furries. You see, I dislike people, like really dislike people, or simply don't get along with them because of their moral standards and mindset. Appearance, age, gender, race, ethnicity, except for Russians, zodiac Jupiter energy do not affect my take on the person. And in case of furries, not all, but many of whom I've met, what they call a hobby, furry activity, literally became their identity and personality. Which not only I think is boring as hell, but is the reason of my disliking. Instead of expanding your horizon over new things and trying out new hobbies, you are stuck to the same thing. I can't stand the fandom's mentality either. Perhaps it has something to do with the origin of most furries, and that would be the freedom units. I'm Slavic, so my view on the world and my humor is way different. To me, many folk from America are sensitive. And in case of furries, they're even more vulnerable to any of the comments I share. From my POV, it is an average dialogue in which I don't mean to offend them or where I'm simply stating the facts. But from their POV, I curse their entire bloodline, their dog, and their grandma's cooking. And this much vulnerability and easy way of getting offended over everything is what I find irritating. Furries often use this excuse to pardon anyone and anything, blame every single problem of humanity on anti-furries, and call them every mean word in the book. Again, not all furries share this trait, but from my personal experience, I just got 99% luck for all of these types of people. The other issue is the mindset. Trying to convince a furry which firmly believes that their fandom is innocent is nearly impossible. I don't know what arguments I must bring up, but it never results in anything, as if I'm talking to a wall. And the double standards. Oh my gosh. This is what makes an anti-furry's blood boil. I'll give you an example. Calling an anti-furry flag a flag because of the similarities in the color palette is alright. But calling a furry flag a zoo flag? Or comparing them in a similar way? Nah, it's not. All anti-furries are scum of the earth and evil, but furries aren't and never were. The anti-furry movement, but furries were never related, even though there's a whole subculture of this, and it was stated in Wikipedia. Double standards. All anti-furries are stupid kids, but I heard it from the members of roughly the same age as I am. To sum up, generally I have a bad opinion on furry fandom, but not to the extent of bullying the members of the same group. By bullying, I mean not just simply calling them, ha, stupid, but like Team Red, cyber stalking, cyber bullying. I have mixed opinions on this. What else? The really mean stuff. And yes, I find furries cringe. Yes, mostly I do not agree with their point of view, but I will treat them with the same level of respect I give to a stranger when we first meet. Simple, casual politeness will do. Perhaps keeping it all neutral is the best way of communication with the said individuals. On the positive note, surely I will not deny that there are many talented creators within the fandom. Luck a Daisy indie animation series surely had a lot of effort put into them, as well as Little Company definitely was peak in its time of release. I am fairly certain there are good furries out there too, however, in my 4 years of experience, I have encountered a few, if any at all. One case I remember very vividly when I talked to an ex-furry who has left the fandom because of the NSFW content issues within the fandom. And oh my god, this was heavenly experience. She or they, I don't know, mostly agreed on my take on furries, politely explained me where she or they disagreed, never ever had an intent of offending me, and to top it off, even thanked me for the video I created. Unfortunately, I do not remember the person's nickname, nor the YouTube channel title, but I do remember that one of their OCs was a mouse or something. That interaction was like a balsam on my soul. This good interaction happened once and never again. My opinion on anti-furries, well, that's like, let's start with Team Red. I do not support their mindset, since solving arguments with force never resonated with me. I prefer the mentality of Team Blue. The idea of debates is to my liking. Right now I feel absolutely neutral to the AFC, that is no longer my concern. With that being said, I may announce the most important thing. I am retiring as an anti-furry, and from this moment on, I am no longer to be associated with this coalition. What happens now? Well, I finally have full creative freedom. For a long time, being part of the AFC meant following certain expectations and limits on what I could say or create. Couldn't talk positive about any creations that may or may not be created by furries or the ones that fandom enjoys, but it's not furry creation. Previously, I had to put on a mask and pretend to be evil, especially in the memes and stuff. I had to pretend to be someone else, much meaner and much more dislikable for the sake of experiment. And now I can move on, explore new topics, and focus on content I actually enjoy making. I can now open up about my stories and have full freedom of expression. The biggest plus is that I might be able to post on this channel more often. So if you'd like to stay, you are always welcome to, dear viewer. And thank you for watching. Hope you have learned something new today and my experiment was relevant to someone.